This video, we're going to take a look at Prodemand, their wiring diagram. On the last video, we looked at Nissan's way of doing it. We were looking at a 97 Nissan Pathfinder with the 3.3 liter and the starter circuit manual transmission. I'm going to pull the same thing up on here to be able to look at it and compare. Open up Prodemand. Come to 97 Nissan Pathfinder. It doesn't matter body style because the starter circuit's going to be the same. And then the 3.3. Prodemand wants you to use their Search Plus feature. I'm old fashioned. I like going right to the service manual and looking at it myself. Since this is a wiring diagram, I'm going to go to the electrical wiring diagrams. We used to have all the wiring diagrams right in here. They changed this a little while back. You can see that there's no starter in here, and the starter is here. The starter sits in Mitsubishi, which means that they use a Mitsubishi starter. Here's my wiring diagram. First one in here is the automatic transmission. They show you all the wiring diagrams, even if you chose something different. We're going to look at the starter circuit for the manual transmission. Taking a look over at the Nissan wiring manual. We had battery voltage coming in here. We have this one, which was hot in run and start. The green wire with the red stripe came to terminal 2, control side. Terminal 1, green wire with the yellow stripe. That came to the option of the theft deterrent. Came over here, went to the next page. The next page we saw that there was another relay, and that relay was controlled by the theft deterrent computer. And then it was a blue wire with a green stripe that came back, and the blue wire with green stripe came to our connector E1 and M1, and then became the green wire with the yellow stripe again, coming to our clutch switch on the clutch pedal. So push the clutch pedal down, switch closes to ground, and we have power and ground on the control side of the relay. From the start switch, in the start position, we're going to have battery voltage to pin 3. Normally open contact. When this energizes, that will close. And black wire with the pink stripe is going to come. We have another connector here, our E49, E104, those ones we looked at last time, and then comes to our starter. Now let's look over here. On and run or start, that's the same. Green wire with the red stripe, that's the same. Coming to pin 2, control side, pin 1, green wire with the yellow stripe. And here's our option. If you have the theft deterrent, it comes to the theft deterrent relay, but they don't show you the control side of the relay. If you want to see the control side of the relay, you have to go to the theft warning relay, which we're not going to do that because our vehicle didn't have that option. And they say that there's a connector right here if you have the theft warning relay that's not there if you don't have that option. Back over here, you see we do have that connector regardless of the option. The other thing that I want you to notice is this is a light green they're showing you here, when it's actually a blue wire with a green stripe. My guess is the person that was looking at it saw the L/G and figured, oh, that's a light green, when it's actually a blue wire with a green stripe. So here's a mistake that they made. They got the wrong color there. They put this connector only if it had the theft deterrent option. That connector should be drawn back here. However, they don't give us any number for that connector, so I have no way of looking it up to figure out. Looking at the other side of the circuit, power from the 40 amp fuse is what we have, but I'm not showing it over here. White with the purple comes to here, power in the start position, which gives me power to 3. Same thing we had here. Black with the pink stripe, which is again what we have here. And that comes directly to the starter motor. And here, we did our diagnosing right here at this connector so that we didn't have to try to get into the starter or drop the starter out of there before we could test this position. Prodemand forgot to put that in. And this is what I find consistent with Prodemand is they leave those connectors out of their drawings. It's nice with the Prodemand because European, Asian, domestic, all of them have the same wiring diagram because they redraw their wiring diagram. However, when they redraw it, they can't get mistakes, such as that one there, and they consistently leave out connectors. Just about every one that I've looked at, I found connectors that are missing. It's for that reason that I prefer all data to Prodemand. However, when I'm working on the European cars and looking at the Lucas wiring diagrams, I will sometimes go to Prodemand because it's a whole lot easier to read there. Now we're going to take a look at some other stuff that's on here. If you're not familiar with the Prodemand, then you can go to your wiring diagrams, and using Mitchell's wiring diagrams, they have an introduction which tells you in this first paragraph right here, they get the manufacturer's wiring diagrams, press the TSBs that point out the mistakes in the wiring diagrams, check for accuracy, and redraw, which is what we talked about already. Color abbreviations. So this is the part I don't quite understand. They're redrawing their wiring diagrams. It seems like they would be consistent, but they're showing, hey, sometimes black may be BLK, other times it may be BK, other times it may be B on some European. Diagram symbols. A couple of videos ago, I think it was video number 9, we looked at some of the wiring common symbols. You'll see a lot of these are the same. They show you the horn, which the horn is an electromagnet that's inside there, which that's what they're showing you here. All those symbols are pretty close to the same. Diagram ground symbols. And this is the one I'm still a little bit confused about as to what they're doing here. And they're saying that left fender is 1, front of the car is 2, engine is 3, firewall is 4, right fender is 5, under the dash will be 6, and then 7 driver's door and on like that. I look here on number 6, instrument panel, G200 is the left kick panel. So vehicle's left, kick panel is going to be underneath the dash if you sit there and part that you kick with your foot. That's the kick panel. So they're showing you the G200, 207. These are all the ground connectors under the dash. Click that. And then their component location, which they give you a brief description of the component location in the wiring diagram. They also have another place that has the component location, and we're going to take a look at that, which is a setup similar to this one. Come over here, component location, electrical component locator, and fuses, buzzers, relays, and timers. That's the one that I want. So I'm going to come down here and find the clutch interlock relay, manual transmission. It says on the fuse block or junction block. So here's that same image, and what you will find on a lot of these images, it's the exact same thing that we looked at in the service manual. Literally what they do is they scan those images and put it in the Prodemand. Clutch interlock relay, second one right there. Printing this out. Actually, we're going to go to the Search Plus, which is where Prodemand wants us to go. And type in starter. Go to the starter, and here's how they want to do it. I can look up if there's any campaigns, recalls, dealing with that, which I don't typically go there first. Top fixes, it's going to list what technicians have come across, graphed over the miles, trouble codes, OEM specifications. This is typically going to be torque specs, and then that other spec that we looked at of how many amps it should draw and the RPM, which we're not going to be doing that. OEM test procedures. And this can be really handy for a system that you don't know how that works. I'm going to come over here, And on this particular one, Prodemand didn't do so good on this one. Now they've done good on other ones, but this one, not so much. You'll notice that my diagnostic procedure, 8. 8. Where's 1 through 7? The other thing is, on 8, here's the connector that's plugged into the computer. They have me probing on the harness side, so if the computer's still plugged in, they want me to back probe at pin 32 and check for voltage to ground. The vehicle that we're working on doesn't have the theft option, so this step is totally useless. Hit and miss most of the time on those. They get it right, just this particular time. Guided component tests. The only thing they show us here is the battery cable, checking where that connects in. Component location diagram. They tell me where the starter is, which if you didn't know where the starter is, that could be really handy. The OEM interactive wiring diagram. And on this one, they take me right to the manual transmission line, which if you notice when I went there from the service manual, instead of using this surge, the automatic one came up first and then the manual, because most of these vehicles are automatics. When I clicked on this, they did a really good job taking me right to the manual transmission. With this one, and this is highlighted from the last time I was on here, so I'm going to unclick these. If I'm doing the testing and I want to focus on these wires here on the switch side of that relay, you can highlight it. One of the changes that they made fairly recently is if you highlight the wiring diagram on one page, and the wiring diagram you look at is 2, 3, 4, however many pages long, the highlighting will continue on to all the different pages. So you can go start scrolling through and it'll still be highlighted. You click these arrows on here to go to the next page or the previous page. The other thing that they did, this little eye over here, it will fade out the rest of the wiring that's on there. On this one, it doesn't make that big a deal because I've only got this one other circuit. But when you're working on like a computer-controlled circuit, and there's 100 wires on there, when you can highlight the ones you want to focus on and then fade out the rest of them, man, it makes a huge difference. So there are some things with the Prodemand wiring diagram that are really good, excellent. Kudos to them. I really like what they've done. The fact that they've left out connectors on almost all the wiring diagrams that I checked. Prodemand ever watches this video, I hope they make the changes and start putting those connectors in. Because for me, that's where I'm going to go to do the testing on the circuit. And if I can't even find the connector on there, I can't test it. I do want to show you one more thing on here. And that is I came over here to service manual, to the component location, electrical component locations, right there. All right, electrical component locator, and I'm going to go to connectors. I can come down here and find my E49. That's the connector that we did the testing on. E49, they show me E49, E104 is right there, which that is where it is. However, this doesn't tell me that E49 plugs into E104. It also doesn't tell me what it's a part of because they left it out of the wiring diagram. A lot of good things about Prodemand. Most of the students, when I introduce them to AllData and introduce them to Prodemand, the search engine on Prodemand is very intuitive, works very much like doing a search on the internet. Students naturally gravitate towards Prodemand and like it a lot better. Because I do a lot of wiring, a lot of electrical, Prodemand is missing those connectors. I like AllData better. Using both, get used to both of them. If you're in control of the shop as far as what decisions or which ones you're going to choose to use, I doubt if you're going to be willing to pay the subscription to both. Choose the one that you like better. There are now some other choices out there, but those are by far the two largest and most common ones. Hope that helps you with the Prodemand and looking at the wiring diagrams. We will do one more, and that's looking at the European wiring diagrams on our next